Hello YouTubers, this is the Noobifier. The last video I made was very well received, and for that I would like to thank you for your support. What I want to do today is talk about my experience finding the sweet spot with regards to controllers. Controller balance is not as important as your skill. I decided over 1 year ago to stop reading all the banter about keyboard versus mouse versus HOTAS. I realized that no matter what controller you use, if you're unable to use it effectively, you would easily be beasted by a better pilot regardless of what he or she is using. Let's get the formalities out of the way. I do read all your comments and take all suggestions to heart. I will always try to get directly to the point, to say what I need to in an easy to watch video that is as short as possible. If you like that idea, please help me by spreading the word. My recent gaming history is first-person shooters. I did play Wing Commander and X-Wing vs TIE Fighter. I loved them. I used a joystick because it made sense. I came to the conclusion that no matter if I was at a disadvantage or not, I needed to use a full HOTAS system for starcitizen. In my opinion, you're fucking yourself out of the most immersive experience possible unless you use some sort of flight stick. I'm going to get you the most important thing I found out when I was taking notes for this video. There's no replacing trigger time. No matter what you use to fly the ship, you need to put the time into Arena Commander, Vandal Swarm, Vandal Co-op, and at New Horizons flying through the rings. I personally feel that where we are now, with what CIG has done to balance the gimbals versus fixed, that I don't feel like I'm at a disadvantage flying HOTAS anymore. I feel that if I'm killed, it's because that pilot is better than I am, or he's using a better ship. You may disagree with me, but it's my opinion. When I first backed Star Citizen, we were in the early stages of Arena Commander, known as Missile Commander. It was a bit ridiculous, but anyways. I started out with mouse and keyboard, transitioned to gamepad, looking for that more immersive experience, then realized that I needed more buttons or was having difficulty pushing buttons on the keyboard while holding a gamepad, so I made the natural transition to seek out voice attack. Voice attack was great, and then I saw Track IR and decided that it would be cool to be able to aim guns while using the gamepad. That proved to be very reactive, very easy to control the ship, but it kind of lacked that fidelity that I was looking for in flying the ship. Track IR was good, but it wasn't a perfect solution. It still required a lot of skill and a lot of concentration to get those shots to hit. So I transitioned to a HOTAS Warthog, and then needed pedals because of the lack of twist. With that, I combined voice attack and track IR to aim the guns. But more recently, I've decided to switch to fixed guns so that I could upsize my loadout. Hopefully the most useful piece of information you're going to get out of this video is every single time you switch controller type, you're going to have a skill loss. You're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing, or you're going to get frustrated. I know I personally did get totally frustrated when I went from using a gamepad to HOTAS, and I had to stop and remember that I'd been using that gamepad for well over 6 months, and it was natural that changing the full setup is going to create an issue with my gameplay. I originally was quite concerned that I'd spent a lot of money on something that was worse, and it was simply not the case. I just needed to get back in the seat and figure out what I'd bought. So in my opinion, mouse and keyboard is the least immersive experience that you can get in Star Citizen. I know it's really cheap, which is great, and it doesn't take any real estate up off of your desk because you probably already have that equipment anyways. It's easy to aim guns and lead lock and everything like that. All these different mechanisms do make it so that you can actually fly your ship without any problem. I found gamepad to be a very good compromise, but the only problem with gamepad is that I don't think you have enough buttons to actually, effectively use the ship that you've got. Now, gamepad was really good if you had a very responsive ship, or basically it makes any ship seem more responsive. I find that being able to go full left to full right in an instant gives you that mobility that you may not get out of mouse and keyboard. Gamepad is still my next best suggestion if you can't afford a HOTAS, or if that's something that you don't want to get involved with. People have asked me in the past, he's like, I just can't figure out this mouse keyboard shit, and I'm not willing to put that time in to be proficient with it. And I say to them, go get an Xbox controller, plug it in and configure it, however you like. And it is a really good intermediate. If you've watched any of my other videos, it's no surprise. I do suggest using voice attack no matter what controller configuration you decide to use. Even if you know where every single button is on your HOTAS, or you reliably know where all the buttons are on the keyboard, it's nice to have that backup where you can just, in the heat of battle, say something like decoy and not have to look down. So whereas the gamepad is really good for pointing the ship, it's not really good for aiming the ship. It has such a small movement that I found myself overshooting, undershooting, and it was very difficult to keep that nice arc that you need to line up your shots. So I decided to go with track IR, thinking that I would be able to, compensate for the motion of the ship with my head. After about a half an hour playing with the little configuration tool and getting it all set up, I did find it to be very effective. However, it wasn't laser precision like you can get out of a mouse and keyboard. But it did give me that nice balance where I could compensate for the jagged motion of my ship with the gamepad and still get bullets on target. So it was effective. But more recently, switched to HOTAS with pedals, and I no longer really need that aim because I can actually line up the shots with extreme precision now with the joystick. So that brings me to today. I have HOTAS Warthog and I have fixed fired weapons. Anytime I go to the holo table, I will take all the gimbals off of anything because I know that I'm going to be monoloading or something along the lines of that. I'm not relying on track IR anymore to aim my guns, and I don't feel that I'm at a disadvantage because I don't have the ability to point my guns. I actually am good enough now that I feel that I can take the ship out and aim it and track, and I even start to forget that I'm even playing a video game. It's that immersive. I think the one thing that makes this game so appealing to me is the same thing that's going to make it difficult for people to get into. There is a skill set that you need to learn to be effective. Anyone will be able to fly a ship around, that's not a problem. But if you think you can fly a ship casually without learning how to dogfight, without putting hours into your skill, you're probably going to find parts of Star Citizen pretty frustrating. There's no replacement to your tradecraft. My goal today was to get some discussion going with regards to controllers. It's a question I get all the time for people that I've recruited recently. They fly and they find it confusing. After a short time, it starts to make sense and they get better, and then they start to have fun. If you know that a new citizen is getting frustrated, please take the time to make sure they understand this is not Call of Duty or Fallout. It's not meant to be a casual sit-on-the-couch game, at least not in my opinion. People always say you get what you pay for, and anything worth doing is worth doing well. So put the time on the trigger, and you'll be happy. Thanks very much for sharing your time with my content. Please subscribe if you like what I'm doing with this channel, and I'll see you in the verse.